Chapter 31. Bloody Ferrara, 3. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Concentric circles. Excellent nourishment. Concentric circles. The person Zhuang Qingyan referred to as the make up the numbers guy was Xu Xing. Before Xu Xing separated from them, he secretly slipped a small piece of paper to Song Ke. On the paper, he wrote down the place he was temporarily staying, allowing Song Ke to come and visit him when she had time. Song Ke and Zhuang Qingyan followed that address to find Xu Xing, and what they discovered was, it was actually a 7-star hotel. Well, look at this white luxurious dome, the evergreen front garden, and the excellent view of the night sky from a high altitude. It looked expensive at first glance. All right, strict access control, even external visitors weren't allowed in. The two of them had to inform the robot butler and waited for a full 20 minutes in the chilly wind before Xu Xing finally came downstairs. He was wearing a colorful coat, floating over like a butterfly. Sister. Xu Xing obediently jumped into Song Ke's arms, his eyes sparkling, his smile sweet. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly noticed Zhuang Qingyan standing aside. Xu Xing, OVO. His clever words got stuck in his throat, his smile froze on his lips, and a surge of irritability rushed to his forehead. Why did he come too? Song Ke. After Song Ke explained, mentioning that she had been together with Zhuang Qingyan during this time, Xu Xing reluctantly nodded, leading the two upstairs. As soon as they stepped into the room, Song Ke was stunned. Xu Xing was actually staying in a suite, fully equipped with amenities. There was 24-hour warm water if one got thirsty, they could order food anytime they were hungry, and they could watch the latest projection programs when bored. Additionally, there were entertainment rooms, swimming pools, fitness rooms. Turns out they were sleeping rough outside, perhaps even staying in free capsule hotels by the roadside, while Xu Xing, the invisible rich kid, was living luxuriously in a big house. His life was undoubtedly extremely enjoyable. Dizzily, Song Ke sat down on the sofa and felt as if she had sunk into a soft cloud. Xu Xing offered her a bunch of snacks and drinks as if presenting a treasure. "Why are you living here?" Song Ke asked, her confusion easing after a moment. "My dad had a lot of money saved at Yaban Bank." Xu Xing innocently blinked. Yaban Bank was a well-known commercial bank within the alliance, with branches scattered across various cities and regions. When Xu Weiguo passed away, Xu Xing became the legitimate heir to his inheritance. Everyone understood the reasoning, but it was hard to avoid jealousy when a 10-year-old kid possessed such astonishing wealth. During his time in the logistics team, Xu Xing hadn't revealed anything to others. He acted like a timid little rabbit, happily munching on sesame cakes as if he didn't have a care in the world. Everyone thought he was just like Song Ke, coming from the backward District F, an ignorant and impoverished child. "How did you know about this hotel?" Song Ke still couldn't believe it. Both were from the District F, but as soon as Xu Xing arrived at Ferrara, he stayed in a luxury hotel. He seemed to be swimming in comfort, while she couldn't even distinguish the 4 cardinal directions and suffered the embarrassment of not having enough money to register as an awakener. "My dad took me to a concert here before, and we stayed here." Xu Xing answered matter-of-factly. So, the real poor person was just her. Eating the delicious snacks, Song Ke's mood grew even more melancholic. "Sister, why did you come looking for me?" Xu Xing curled up into a small ball on the carpet, pressed against Song Ke's thigh, and asked softly. He didn't know why, but he felt particularly close to Song Ke. Perhaps a child's intuition was naturally accurate, or maybe both of them being from the District F made them connect. Song Ke was strong and gentle, and Xu Xing firmly believed that she wouldn't hurt him. Song Ke stumbled through explaining that she wanted his help to form a team and meet the required number of members. Considering Xu Xing was timid, she hastily added, "You don't need to do the task. I can manage it on my own." After listening, Xu Xing, without much thought, readily agreed, "Sure, sister. I'll join your team." This way, the two of us, with 2 awakeners. 2 awakeners? He suddenly popped up and pointed at Zhuang Qingyan. 2 awakeners? Isn't he? Zhuang Qingyan leaned by the window, elegantly sipping tea, maintaining a calm demeanor. Song Ke glanced over, puzzled, him, what's wrong? Xu Xing glanced at Zhuang Qingyan, then back at Song Ke. His words trailed off, and his eyes moved around, then suddenly he exclaimed, oh, with an expression that said, I understand now. Sister, are you hungry? I'm really hungry. Can you order some food for me? The service machine is in the living room. Song Ke found herself inexplicably assigned to place an order. With only the 2 of them in the room, Xu Xing paced back and forth, hands behind his back, looking smug and childish, as if he had just discovered something profound about Zhuang Qingyan. You didn't tell sister that you're an awakener. Zhuang Qingyan responded calmly, yeah, she didn't ask, so I didn't have the chance to say. Of course, Xu Xing didn't believe him. He stuck his tongue out in disdain and scrunched his face. You're lying to a kid. Clearly, you're an awakener and yet you pretend to be pitiful, and can only sit in a wheelchair. Are you afraid that if you tell the truth, sister won't want you anymore? You want me to be self-reliant? You have no shame. Amid Xu Xing's relentless, no shame, no shame, no shame, Zhuang Qingyan's expression remained unchanged. He gently placed the teacup in his hand on the table, making a crisp clink sound. Saying you have no brains, I really haven't wronged you. He interlocked his 10 fingers over his abdomen, smiling menacingly at Xu Xing. I bet that even if I tell Song Ke I'm an awakener, given the life and death bond between us, she would still bring me along. And you, after pretending to be so innocent and naive before, now that she knows how cunning you were at such a young age, well, let me think. She probably won't even have time to run away, will she? Xu Xing was taken aback. You. He kept stammering, failing to continue his argument, and finally exploded with frustration, stomping his feet and cursing, you villain. When Song Ke returned, she found Xu Xing glowering at Zhuang Qingyan, panting heavily. It's ordered, done. Xu Xing quickly turned his head, switching his expression faster than flipping a page in a book, putting on a fatally sweet smile. Sister, why don't you stay here? There are still plenty of empty rooms, and I feel scared alone. A luxury hotel was certainly more comfortable than a capsule warehouse, so Song Ke didn't hesitate to say thank you to Xu Xing. Ecstatic, Xu Xing jumped up and enthusiastically wanted to show Song Ke around the room. As he turned, Zhuang Qingyan also followed. He immediately spread his arms like a protective chick, guarding the door. What are you still doing here? You go stay outside. You're not welcome here. Song Ke felt a bit awkward. She had promised to look after Zhuang Qingyan's leg. She also couldn't just leave him alone to sleep in a comfortable room. If Xu Xing really didn't want to accommodate Zhuang Qingyan, then maybe she should sleep in the capsule warehouse with him. Just as she was about to say something, Zhuang Qingyan calmly adjusted the blanket on his knee, lit tle, lotus. Xu Xing irritably started making weird noises, completely controlled by him. In the end, both of them managed to stay. However, Song Ke couldn't shake the feeling that something was a bit off. Had Xu Xing's personality changed a bit in the few days they hadn't seen each other? And also, when did he become so familiar with Zhuang Qingyan? The next day, the 3 of them set off once again for the commission center. Xu Xing skipped and hopped as if he were out shopping, walking backwards with enthusiasm. Sister, after we're done forming the team, let's go eat something delicious. My dad took me to a place. Someone rushed towards them, colliding with Xu Xing. He stumbled a bit, and Song Ke quickly reached out to steady him. The person muttered a vague, sorry, and hurriedly ran past them, heading in another direction. What's happening? A curious individual poked their head out from a nearby shop. There are zombies up ahead. The person shouting looked excited. Song Ke was momentarily stunned, suspecting she had misheard. There's something delicious up ahead, as "There are zombies up ahead." To be so enthusiastic about encountering zombies, were the citizens of Ferrara all this daring? "Should we go and take a look?" Song Ke asked her companions for their opinions. Both Zhuang Qingyan and Xu Xing nodded in agreement. The three of them followed the crowd and soon arrived at the scene. In the center of the crowd, a tall zombie was bound by several ropes, its face twisted in a fierce grimace as it struggled and roared like a trapped beast. There were obvious knife marks, scars, and bruises from the ropes on its body. The ends of the ropes were held by different individuals, each of their faces filled with the excitement of slaughter, the cruelty of bloodlust, and an indescribable eagerness to try. A burly man stepped forward, planted his foot on the zombie's head, spat in its face, and then raised his arms in triumph. The others responded excitedly, as if he were some kind of world-conquering hero. Song Ke couldn't help but furrow her brows. Holding her hand, Xu Xing lowered his chattering voice, fearfully hiding behind her. Before long, a mechanized forklift with a special number on its body came roaring in. A massive iron cage descended from the sky, capturing the zombie alive, and then it was lifted away. "Why didn't they kill it?" Song Ke whispered. A person nearby who had been watching the commotion gave her a sidelong glance. "New here? Kill it? That's crude, far too crude. No artistic sense. But this is the throne race competition. It's excellent nourishment." Chapter 32. Bloody Ferrara, 4. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master. Concentric Circles Formation of V587. Concentric Circles Throne Race Competition? On the day they entered the city, Ilya mentioned this term, but at that time, everyone was more astonished by the identity of the artificial intelligence, so they didn't pay much attention to it. And what was the deal with nourishment? The attitude of the citizens of Ferrara towards zombies was drastically different from the people Song Ke encountered in District F and District D. There was a hint of fanatical hunting in their approach. Zhuang Qingyan leaned forward from his wheelchair, his slender fingers lifting up a poster covered in numerous footprints. He gazed at the words on it and slowly recited, "Smooth roads only make people mediocre. Only flames and thorns can temper the true crown of a king." Throne race competition, hot registration ongoing, address on the back. Xu Xing also leaned in with his little head. "If you're curious, you can go take a look," Zhuang Qingyan said. "Yeah," Song Ke nodded. Once the Awakener registration was sorted out, she would go check out this throne race competition. But for now, the priority was to form their team at the Commission Center. The group of them arrived at the Ferrara Special Affairs Commission Center again. In just a day, the damaged fountain pool at the entrance had already been repaired. Its surface was as good as new, and the efficiency was astonishing. It seemed that the substantial amount of money paid by Baldi and Crazy Chihori for compensation was not in vain. As soon as Song Ke stepped into the hall, she saw a crowd gathered around the screen. A chorus of amazed voices kept coming. "It's 3 grandsons and 1 grandpa, again. How many B-rank commissions is this for them? They're progressing so quickly. Their points must be over 1,000 soon, right?" Song Ke paused her steps. That peculiar team name sounded somewhat familiar, didn't it? Her gaze involuntarily turned towards the suspended screen in front of her, and as expected, as if replaying yesterday, a holographic projection once again flickered with a new announcement. "Congratulations to Team 3 Grandsons and 1 Grandpa for completing B-Rank Commission 4X. On the overall points leaderboard, this team was also in the lead, sitting comfortably at first place with a score of 966. The level of commission tasks not only came with corresponding alliance currency rewards but also carried different point values. For instance, the simplest E-level task was worth 2 points, and the scale increased gradually. D level was 10 points, C level was 50 points, B level was 200 points, and an A-level mission could earn as much as 1,000 points. As for the rumored S-level missions, none had appeared so far, and it was said that there was no upper limit to their point rewards. The rapid ascent of the 3 grandsons and 1 grandpa team, reaching 966 points so quickly, indicated that they had completed at least 3 or more B-level missions, showcasing their considerable strength and unparalleled popularity. Their goal was also clear: to gain access to District B. Cities ranked C and above within the Alliance had strict access regulations. Regular people who wanted to enter a non-residential District C had to apply for short-term entry permits. The reasons could be sightseeing, visiting relatives, official business trips, and more. Once a permit expired, or if someone were still in the city without proper authorization, they would become wanderers, subject to pursuit by the Alliance's Citizenship Enforcement Division. Among the 50 District C areas, only District C-72 was an exception. Ferrara, known for its emphasis on art and freedom, welcomed all travelers from afar. Even for local residents of District C, changing their place of residence wasn't an easy feat. The naturalization process between different cities was extremely stringent. District C inhabitants aiming for District B faced even greater challenges. Before the apocalypse, joining the Azure Phoenix might have been a shortcut, but with the collapse of order and the increasing awakening of abilities, new rules had been established. The Alliance had recently issued an official announcement that individuals with abilities could gain District B citizenship by accumulating points. Of course, the required number of points was quite daunting. Transitioning from District C to District B required a whopping 500,000 points. Song K harbored an unspoken desire. She wanted to go outside and explore. Throughout her life, she had hardly left F-177 district, venturing only as far as U Mountain, E-166 district, and Hua City, D-99 district. After forming a team this time, she wanted to take on a B-level mission and test her skills. Even if she wasn't as capable as the 3 grandsons and 1 grandpa team, she could slowly accumulate points. Who knows, someday she might have the chance to visit District B with her dreams in mind. Song K approached the service window and said, "Hello, I want to form a team." A middle-aged woman in uniform inside pushed up her glasses, glanced at Song K briefly, and then shifted her gaze away. She paused for a second over Xu Xing's fuzzy head, another second on Zhuang Qingyan's legs, 2 seconds on his face, and finally returned to Song K. A teenager around 17 or 18, a well-behaved child, and a disabled person in a wheelchair? She had worked here for 5 or 6 years and considered herself to have sharp eyes, but this was the first time she couldn't tell which 2 of these 3 were awakeners. "Which of you is the captain? Huh? Regardless of who's the captain, show me your awakener ID." Huh? Song K was taken aback. Wasn't it said that regular people could also form teams and take on missions? Why were they asking her for an awakener ID? The staff member looked skeptical. Team members can be regular people, but the team captain has to be an awakener. Without an awakener ID, how do you intend to take and complete missions? "All terminals require identification," Song K exclaimed. "Huh?" The staff member thought she was a rebellious teenager who had gone astray and tried to counsel her with a pained expression. "Young lady, I don't think you're an awakener, are you? Look at the 3 of you. Sigh, taking on contracts is very dangerous. Don't come to cause trouble, okay? Go on, take your brothers back home. Watch a concert of your favorite star, buy some pretty dresses, and live peacefully. If my daughter acted like you, oh my, I'd be so frustrated." Song K remained silent. "What can I do? What else can I do? I just want to form a team, why is it so difficult?" Song K was left speechless. Her thoughts were in turmoil. The entire world for Song K had turned dark. By the fountain pool, Song K sat down dispiritedly. Her fair chin rested on the back of Zhuang Qingyan's wheelchair, and her face wore an expression of utter disillusionment. Zhuang Qingyan, rarely seeing her so listless, patted her head comfortingly. "Don't be disheartened, there might be other ways. Maybe a kind-hearted person will help us?" Xu Xing squatted beside them, playing with the water. He stuck his finger in, and the water surface immediately froze. He pulled out a finger-shaped ice stick, looking like he had discovered a new land, and he enjoyed it immensely. Soon, all 10 of his fingers were solidly frozen. "Sister, why don't you just directly register as an awakener?" "Because I don't have the money," Song Ke answered wearily. "Does it require a lot of money?" Shu Xing asked, puzzled. "Yeah," Song Ke nodded vigorously. 10,000 alliance coins. Shu Xing shook his hand, and the ice stick fell with a tinkling sound, revealing his 10 white and tender fingers. "Sister, I'll transfer it to you directly. It's your money," Song Ke refused. She couldn't just spend someone else's money, especially since Shu Xing was just a child. "It's okay, sister. Look, I have so much money." Shu Xing handed over his new terminal, and Song Ke caught sight of a long string of zeros that seemed endless. "All right, let's correct that." Shu Xing was a very wealthy child. Song Ke still shook her head, but Shu Xing thought his idea was brilliant and pleaded softly, "Sister, just consider it a loan from me. You can give it back to me after you complete that commission, okay? I want to register as an awakener too. Sister Tilda, will you take me?" Not getting his way, he began to act cute. Song Ke was worn down by his persistence. "All right, I'll ask you to lend me first." She lifted her chin from the back of the wheelchair, rummaged in her backpack, took out a piece of paper, and wrote IOU carefully. "Okay." Shu Xing brightened up. "Let's go then." After saying this, he sneakily glanced at Zhuang Qingyan's corner of the eye, like a proud little peacock, chin held high. HMPH. Zhuang Qingyan smiled but remained silent. A little foolish fish, easily caught on a hook, yet blissfully unaware. He's kind-hearted at least. He shouldn't spoil his good intentions. With the support of the little local tyrant Shu Xing, things suddenly became simpler. Soon, Song Ke once again completed the process and obtained her awakener identification, a small needle-type terminal that could circulate in District C, with its jurisdiction located in the area of Ferrara. Compared to Wu Yuru's silver-white District B terminal, this one lagged behind in both appearance and functionality. It was like the difference between a basic model and a luxury limited edition. However, Song Ke couldn't put it down. It was her official ID, marking an end to her days as a black householder. The girl who was slacking off also told her that once the results of the Awakener level were out, they would be synchronized and updated on the terminal. She wouldn't need to make another trip. Shu Xing took this opportunity to register as an Awakener as well. According to his own account, he accidentally lost control of his ice power during the Awakener review and nearly stabbed the auditors with ice shards, startling them quite a bit. He asked me to conjure a cup of water for him, so I did. Shu Xing blinked innocently, his expression quite convincing. The three of them returned to the commission center once again. The staff member who had considered Song Ke a rebellious teenager repeatedly checked her Awakener ID and finally pursed her lips, submitting a team formation application in the system. Enter the team name. Song Ke looked back to ask her teammates for their opinions. "You're the captain, you decide," Zhuang Qingyan said, adopting an attitude of completely deferring to her. "Sister, I can't think of anything." Shu Xing scratched his head. "Song Ke, I can't think of anything either." Suddenly, she kind of understood the difficulty of 3 grandsons and 1 grandfather. Naming really was tough. Seeing her troubled expression, the staff member casually suggested, "If you can't come up with anything, just use a number." "Let me see, you're the 587th Awakener team registered in Ferrara." The number on the screen jumped by 1 digit, stopping exactly at 00587, next to which was the full name of the Ferrara, Vulala, Special Affairs Agency. "Then, let's go with this, V587. New calendar, year 46, October 2nd. On an ordinary day, the number 1 Awakener team that would later shake the entire alliance, V587, was established in such an ordinary manner. The initial team consisted of only 3 members: Song Ke, Gold-type Awakener, level unknown; Shu Xing, Ice-type Awakener, level unknown, and Ordinary Person, Zhuang Qingyan. The first thing V-587 did after its establishment was to go and complete the B-level mission that Song K had set her eyes on. Using the self-service terminal, Song K swiped her Awakener ID and searched for that mission from the long list. Luckily, it hadn't been taken by anyone else yet. This mission was issued by the Municipal Hall of Luli Port, D150 District, with a reward of 2,000 Alliance coins and 200 team points. The earliest release date was September 25th. Help us clear the zombies on the first floor. We're trapped in the office and can't get out. On September 27th, the mission was updated. Is there anyone to save us? We're running out of food. On September 30th, the mission was updated again. Urgent, the zombies are already outside the door. We can't hold on any longer. Anyone will do. Help, help. Today was already October 2nd. And the mission hadn't been updated since then. It's unknown whether the issuer was still alive. Song K casually checked the system and found that there were quite a few commission tasks from Luli Port, and most of them were related to zombies. It seemed like the disaster situation was quite severe. She turned to Zhuang Qingyan and asked, D150 District, do you know about it? In her mind, Zhuang Qingyan knew everything. Sure enough, Zhuang Qingyan just slightly frowned and said, Luli Port? It's a pretty well-developed tourist city in District D, mostly because of its location by the sea. The other three sides are District C. It became a large-scale resort a few years ago. I remember the artificial beaches and hot springs there are quite popular. A vacation paradise? During the apocalypse, it was the peak of tourism in Luli Port. The local attractions and folk streets were bustling with people. Having a large number of zombies stuck there wasn't surprising. Song K switched back to the mission interface. So, should I take this? Zhuang Qingyan confirmed with her, the mission location is the Municipal Hall? Yes, why, is there a problem? The Municipal Hall of Luli Port is known for its maze-like architectural style. It's intricate and complex inside, easy to get lost. Similar to Hua City, it has won the Gold Award in city planning competitions. A maze? Song K's expression became blank. She couldn't even tell north from south. No wonder this mission was so urgent and yet no one had taken it for so long. Zhuang Qingyan smiled and said, if it's just a simulated maze, even if it's a real maze, it would still be a bit difficult to trap me. With him saying that, things seemed easier. Full of confidence, Song K clicked, accept commission, and then, confirm. Suddenly, the terminal screen projected a text, detecting that you are currently in District C72. The format of this mission has changed. Please refresh and complete it according to local requirements. Otherwise, the mission will be considered a failure. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. What did that mean? Song K refreshed the screen. New text appeared on the screen. In support of the Throne Race tournament, please try to capture the zombies and bring them back to Ferrara. You can apply for a free transport vehicle for this commission. Smiley face. Capture zombies? And what's with this smiley face? What is that supposed to be? Both Zhuang Qingyan and Shu Xing saw this prompt. Shu Xing had little reaction, but Zhuang Qingyan sneered, interesting. What was once a straightforward task suddenly turned magical. Song K couldn't help but recall the scene she witnessed on the street in the morning, along with the phrase, excellent nourishment, that the passerby mentioned. The direction of events was becoming increasingly enigmatic. It seemed necessary to figure out what the Throne Race competition was all about after completing the mission. After exiting the hall, Song K was still pondering where to collect the free transport vehicle. The rumbling sound of an engine reached her ears. From the track that stretched across the Ferrara sky, a numbered transport vehicle came rolling along and stopped right in front of Song K and her companions. The transport vehicle was entirely silver gray in color. The cockpit was narrow, but it had a total of 8 carriages at the back. What was even more chilling was that each carriage was filled with iron cages adorned with barbs. Bloodstains crisscrossed inside, the colors dull and gloomy, having captured countless zombies. The terminal made a ding sound, displaying the vehicle information. This vehicle was equipped with automated driving and preset round-trip routes. In theory, Song K only needed to capture the zombies and toss them onto the vehicle. It would return on its own. Song K and Zhuang Qingyun boarded the cockpit, and as the door was about to close, Xu Xing caught the hem of Song K's clothes. "Sister, I want to go too. Aren't you afraid?" Xu Xing was terrified of zombies to the core. Both instances of his supernatural ability going out of control were due to zombies. Xu Xing's hand trembled for a moment, gradually releasing Song K's clothes, but the next second, he grabbed them tightly again. He saw Zhuang Qingyun inside the cockpit, looking at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Although Zhuang Qingyun hadn't said a word, Xu Xing sensed the disdain in his gaze, as if he were saying, "Oh? That's it?" Initially hesitating, Xu Xing's inner sense of pride was completely aroused. With his neck held high, his voice full of enthusiasm, he exclaimed, "I'm not afraid. I want to help you. I won't cause any trouble." After a moment of thought, Song K agreed. Although Xu Xing was an unstable element, it wasn't a big deal. She just needed to keep a closer eye on him. "Come on board." The transport vehicle distributed by Ferrara had a steam-driven engine and didn't use the energy of Yiyu, so its speed was considerably slower compared to a starship. Nevertheless, it could utilize the aerial track. After approximately 10 hours of travel, Song K and her companions arrived at Luli Port. It was approaching midnight, and the municipal hall of Luli Port was less than 3 kilometers away. Hordes of zombies were roaming the outskirts. Without clearing a path, they couldn't get in. Song K opened the window, hooked her finger, and agilely flipped out, landing on top of the vehicle. In her hand was a repeating crossbow similar to the one Zhuang Qingyun had. "I'll distract the zombies on the left. Xu Xing, freeze them on the right." Xu Xing clenched his fists and nodded nervously, "Okay." Shouldering the crossbow with one hand, Song K squinted her eyes, aimed, and lightly pulled the trigger. 10 arrows shot out simultaneously, accurately piercing a small group of isolated zombies ahead. Those zombies noticed the movement and rushed towards them. Xu Xing also stood up, his ability followed suit. A sudden blizzard engulfed the area, and the zombies that were lured out were instantly frozen. The vehicle's surveillance detected the zombie movements. A long mechanical arm extended from the rear compartment, sweeping these zombies into iron cages like garbage. Once a compartment was filled, the door silently closed, automatically shifting to the front, and the second-to-last compartment was then pushed out. "Keep going." Song K changed direction and continued shooting arrows to attract the zombies' attention. "All right." Xu Xing was full of enthusiasm. The first carriage transporting zombies slowly passed the cockpit. Dripping water droplets fell, and one of the frozen zombies had unknowingly melted. Suddenly, it began to roar restlessly. Swipe, sharp claws protruded from the iron cage, almost touching Xu Xing's nose through the window glass. Xu Xing's attention was focused forward. He was startled by the attack that came out of nowhere. His pupils trembled, and the blizzard that had been swirling all around him turned into ice spikes. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Several skulls of the supposedly frozen zombies were pierced by ice shards, but the remaining ones kept pushing forward. Xu Xing's rhythm became chaotic, affecting Song K's concentration. Her arrows couldn't attract so many zombies, and a small group was already rushing towards their position. Song K put down the crossbow, reached back, and pulled out 2 dual-bladed knives from her backpack. Swoosh! She leapt off the top of the vehicle, charging towards the approaching tide of zombies. The moment her feet hit the ground, she swung her blades horizontally, killing the zombies that came rushing. Zhuang Qingyun frowned and yelled in a low voice, "Song K, capture the live ones." Song K's silhouette stiffened for a moment, her actions momentarily delayed, as if she were contemplating how to capture the zombies alive. Then, the catastrophe began. Everything descended into chaos. Xu Xing started yelling frantically, his ability alternately turning into blizzards and ice shards. Song Ke was dashing up and down within the swarm of zombies, incapacitating one by kicking, chasing another to the left, knocking one down, only to have another on the right run away. After much difficulty capturing a group, just as she was about to throw them into the transport vehicle, ice shards from Xu Xing flew over, killing them all. Song Ke. In the midst of endless chaos, Zhuang Qingyan covered his face. V-587's first mission, a massive failure. Chapter 33. Bloody Ferrara, 5. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master Concentric Circles A-level task. Mutant Zombie. Concentric circles at the critical moment, Zhuang Qingyan remained calm. He surveyed the chaotic situation on the field and quickly made a judgment. Xu Xing, stop and create ice in the direction I indicated. Xu Xing, with a defiant tone despite being in a difficult situation, retorted, why should I listen to you? Zhuang Qingyan's icy gaze lingered on his collar for a second, his expression as fierce as a demon. If you don't obey, I'll throw you out right now. Xu Xing, T_T, he recalled the agony of being dominated. Zhuang Qingyan no longer paid attention to him. His slender fingers continuously manipulated the complex control panel in the cockpit. His gaze fell on Song Ke in the distance. He paused, and certain unpleasant memories suddenly struck him. As a precaution, he turned his head again and confirmed with Xu Xing, do you know the directions? North, south, east, west? Xu Xing angrily shouted, of course. Who do you think you're looking down on? Very well. Zhuang Qingyan's lips curled slightly, better than your sister. With a slight movement of his fingertip, he retrieved a collapsible cane from the space, unfolded it in a couple of swift motions, supported the wheelchair's handguard, and then exerted force. After injuring his right leg, he stood up for the first time. Once he stood firm, Zhuang Qingyan extended his right hand, finally reaching the control lever of the mechanical arm, positioned slightly higher. Xu Xing was amazed to find that Zhuang Qingyan was actually quite tall. It wasn't the frail and thin figure he had imagined from prolonged wheelchair use. On the contrary, Zhuang Qingyan stood tall and elegant, with superior proportions. His waist and abdomen had smooth and straight lines, and even his exposed forearms were unusually sturdy. While he was lost in thought, Zhuang Qingyan had already opened the car window and shouted from a distance, Song Ke. Head to 11 o'clock direction. Song Ke blocked with her left knife and executed a semicircular slash with her right knife. With a swift whoosh, she leapt to the front of the zombie horde, acting as bait to lure them towards the northwest. Xu Xing, freeze the entire group of zombies to the southwest. Xu Xing felt a bit dissatisfied. His sister was clearly running towards the northwest, so why did he have to freeze the zombies to the southwest? But Zhuang Qingyan was indeed quite tall. He seemed to only reach his waist. Xu Xing cast an envious glance and obediently followed the command. Northwest direction, 11 o'clock. The zombies brought over by Song Ke were increasing in number, and they finally collided with a nearby carriage with a resounding thud. There was no way forward from here. 6 o'clock, almost simultaneously, Zhuang Qingyan shouted the next command. Song Ke hit the brakes sharply and made a quick turn. The zombies followed her like rabbits chasing carrots, rushing towards them in a synchronized manner. Xu Xing became anxious. They're all coming this way. Zhuang Qingyan said coldly, take care of your ice. If I see another ice shard, you'll be the first one to feed the zombies. The horde of monsters was getting closer and closer to them. Just as the first batch of zombies that Xu Xing froze was melting, and they regained their freedom in a daze, continuing forward due to inertia, Song Ke was caught between them like a carrot being chased by two sides. She was about to be overwhelmed by the zombies. Xu Xing's heart raced. Right at that moment, Song Ke suddenly switched her grip, reversed her knives, and inserted them perfectly into the gaps of the iron cage covered with inverted hooks. Following that, she propelled herself with a leap, her feet landing on the crossbar of the carriage. In the blink of an eye, she executed 2 graceful backflips, taking both herself and her weapons onto the roof of the car. The 2 waves of zombies couldn't react in time and collided with a loud thud, falling to the ground. Just then, the mechanical arm on the side of the carriage emerged mysteriously, sweeping through like a whirlwind, and all these zombies were swept inside. The iron cage swiftly followed, clanging shut the exit. In an instant, the clearing was complete. Inside the cockpit, Zhuang Qingyan gave orders to Song Ke while manually controlling the transport vehicle and the mechanical arm, both in synchronized motion. Xu Xing was completely stunned. This person was multitasking. No, make that triple tasking. He even found time to scold him. Was this really something a human brain could accomplish? With Zhuang Qingyan's guidance, the almost tipping over situation was finally brought under control. Waves of zombies managed to run right into Song Ke's attack range or step into Xu Xing's blizzard, and with the synchronized sweeping of the mechanical arms from the 6 carriages, about half an hour later, the 3 of them managed to clear a path, narrowly escaping the crisis. With the crisis averted, the remaining few zombies were swiftly dealt with by Song Ke. She wiped her twin swords with cloth, crossed them behind her back, and briskly walked back to the front of the vehicle. Leaning on his crutch, Zhuang Qingyan pushed open the cockpit. Leaning against the door, he appeared relaxed and composed, with the night breeze rustling his clothes, making his handsome features even more profound. Zhuang Qingyan looked at Song Ke with a helpless expression. What did you say before we set off? Both Song Ke and Xu Xing were highly offensive supernatural beings. If their cooperation went awry, it could potentially lead to a big mess, wreaking havoc on a catastrophic scale. Having them use their abilities to attract monsters in coordination was a decision they had agreed upon earlier. Zhuang Qingyan had taught them the method personally. On the way, Song Ke had promised with great confidence that she would follow the plan meticulously, being extra cautious. Yet here she was, a skilled long-range archer, engaging in melee combat due to her inability to control the monsters. Xu Xing was even more extreme, losing control of his powers at the slightest scare from the zombies, acting like a runaway wild horse. Song Ke lowered her head in embarrassment, her expression sheepish. I didn't mean to, I forgot. She had gotten so used to cutting off zombie heads that she forgot everything else once she swung into action. Glancing at Zhuang Qingyan's cold gaze and expression, she suddenly had an epiphany. She jumped onto the cockpit and very doggedly reached out to support his arm. I'll help you walk. Zhuang Qingyan hesitated for a moment but didn't pull away. Song Ke desperately signaled to Xu Xing, who was standing foolishly nearby. Xiao Xing, having just been lectured by Zhuang Qingyan on how to be a proper person and awed by his immense calculating abilities, Xu Xing didn't dare to pout this time. He obediently moved the wheelchair out of the cockpit. Forget it, men still had to rely on their strengths to speak. Next time, he definitely had to win back his dignity. After a quick check, the 3 of them estimated that the transport vehicle was now filled with about 4 carriages worth of materials. The interior was soundproof, and they couldn't hear a thing even when pressed against the carriage walls. The city hall of Luli Port was very close now. The vague outline of the building could be seen in the distance. Zhuang Qingyan put away his crutch and returned to his wheelchair. We're almost there, let's walk. Song Ke hesitated. What about this vehicle? She was about to ask if they were just leaving it here, not fully loaded and without automatic return capability. Before she finished speaking, the 2 empty carriages actually detached from the main body of the vehicle. 4 small wheels emerged from the bottom with a clatter, and in an instant, they transformed into the kind of small shopping carts used to stock goods in supermarkets. They trotted along behind them in a curious manner. Zhuang Qingyan wasn't surprised at all. He had discovered this when manipulating the control panel earlier. The vehicle is equipped with a small-scale artificial intelligence that possesses some autonomous decision-making ability. Don't worry about it, let's go. As Song Ke took a couple of steps forward and turned around to look, the 2 carriages were right behind them. With their mechanical arms swinging and swaying, The scene was inexplicably eerie, resembling a supervisor more and more. Luli Port City Hall. Unlike the local area's natural and charming characteristics, this was a building with a forest style style, and its industrial facade was covered with lush vegetation. Suspended in the air were dazzling corridors in various shapes, and platforms of different sizes extended freely. One could easily anticipate the complexity and diversity of the interior space. The height of the entrance gate wasn't enough. The two compartments couldn't squeeze in. The mechanical arm automatically retracted, entering an energy-saving mode. Two small square boxes stopped temporarily at the entrance, finally no longer following them. Song Ke paid no more attention to it and, along with Zhuang Qingyan and Xu Xing, entered the entire building. As described in the assigned task, as early as September 25th, the first floor here should have been filled with zombies. However, the reality was different. After entering through the main gate, there were only a few zombies wandering in the spacious lobby. When things deviate from the norm, there must be something amiss. Song Ke became vigilant involuntarily. She raised her head, following the spiral staircase's ascent. The entire 6 floors of the building were demolished, and the opposite sides were beveled and cut. The top space was distorted, and the environment was extremely quiet. The situation isn't right, be cautious, Zhuang Qingyan warned in a deep voice. Got it, Song Ke sharpened her focus. Xiao Xing, stay close, both of us. Zhuang Qingyan led the way, taking the lead with the two following him upstairs. In the nearly identical corridors, they kept turning and advancing. Before long, his wheelchair stopped. There's someone with abilities. Song Ke was slightly taken aback. The number of rooms here was extensive, and the layout was intricate, often obstructing spiritual exploration. She hadn't heard any sound nor sensed any abilities. How did Zhuang Qingyan determine the presence of an awakener? Go this way. Zhuang Qingyan changed direction, leading them up to the top floor through the staircase and guiding them to a concealed small platform to look down. Sure enough, there were people. Only in the central open space of the 4th floor, several groups of people were confronting each other from a distance. Compared to the mysteriously vanished zombies inside the building, the number of zombies here seemed to be more normal, but they were gathered together like trapped beasts. Song Ke's keen eyesight noticed that one of the zombies had distinctly different symptoms. Its skin had a unique shade of blue, and its level of decay was lower than that of ordinary zombies. Its metallic-like claws were particularly sharp, and most peculiarly, its pupils weren't gray-white but intensely dark, pure black. Zhuang Qingyan's expression turned serious. A mutant zombie? Song Ke was startled. Mutant zombie? Weren't those zombies created from fallen awakeners? Zhuang Qingyan had mentioned that the Alliance's approach to dealing with such zombies was only one: execution. In a tense atmosphere of stalemate, a man whose half-body was composed of machinery took a confident step forward. His natural eye and mechanical eye turned simultaneously, presenting a rather peculiar appearance. I say, Brother Duanmu, your family's business is vast. You might not value these low-level mutant zombies. Why not let us have them? Leaning by the staircase, a refined man dressed in vintage robes smiled. His voice was gentle, but his words showed no sign of backing down. Bartle, spare us the insincere words. They sound nauseating. Our team is climbing the points leaderboard. I thought everyone knew that. Duanmu Qi, don't be too greedy. Exactly. You've already completed most of the B-level tasks. What's left are just dirty and tiring tasks. Don't be too excessive. Aren't you already in first place? Isn't 966 points enough? On the 6th platform, Song Ke, who had just taken on a B-level dirty and tiring task, said. Wait a minute, she suddenly realized with a gasp, belatedly understanding. Points for promotion, completion, 966. Could this be the team, 3 grandsons and 1 grandpa, that's currently ranked first on the leaderboard? Song Ke focused her gaze and indeed, behind the man named Duanmu Qi stood 3 individuals, all concealed in the shadows, their faces revealing a cold and stern expression, each looking quite formidable. Duan Muqi, you weren't the first to discover this unique zombie, and an A-level mission isn't something you can just take on as you wish. An elderly man with a head full of white hair, hands behind his back, descended the staircase with a dignified tone. Awakeners disregard human emotions. In all endeavors, the victor is king. If you want to claim these 1,000 points, you should ask whether we agree. Duan Muqi chuckled. I never expected even Mr. Shang to join in on this lively event. Very well then, let it be as you wish. The victor is king, and the loser is a bandit. All of you can fight for it. I'm curious to see who can take these 1,000 points from me, Duan Muqi. So arrogant, brothers, I can't stand this. Let's all go together. I refuse to believe we can't defeat him. A-level mission. Song Ke understood the content of the dispute between the people below, and her eyes lit up suddenly. Sister, look, Xu Xing leaned over holding the terminal. There is a sudden red commission in the system. 5 hours ago, on their way to Luli Port, the Ferrara Commission Center issued an emergency mission with a level of A. Zhang Lei, the former D-level awakener of Luli Port, D150 district, with the ability of Stone Gaze, has now mutated and escaped. This individual is extremely dangerous. Starting today, a nationwide hunt is underway. Once found, terminate on sight. This was the first A-level mission that appeared in Ferrara. With a whole 1,000 points, it was no wonder that it attracted so many awakener teams. The atmosphere on the 4th floor was becoming more and more solidified, and a crisis was imminent. Since that's the case, let everyone compete based on their abilities. Bartle, the half-mechanized one-eyed man, suddenly smirked. Taking advantage of everyone's unpreparedness, his mechanical left arm extended rapidly, stabbing straight at the mutant zombie Zhang Lei. Bartle, don't you dare to play tricks. All the awakeners took action, and dark shadows rushed towards Zhang Lei one after another. Just as they closed in, Duan Muqi's robes fluttered, and countless thorns burst from the ground, tightly binding the legs of the leading awakeners. Thump thump, like dumplings dropping into boiling water, they all fell back to the ground. Such formidable control ability, Duan Muqi was undoubtedly a powerful wood-type awakener. After Duan Muqi suppressed the situation, 3 individuals behind him rushed out from different angles, heading straight for Zhang Lei. They were just about to reach him when suddenly, Zhang Lei vanished on the spot, a displacement occurring in a corner opposite the group. There was a space-type awakener on the scene. This space-type awakener concealed their whereabouts, constantly shifting Zhang Lei's position. A change every 5 seconds made it difficult for anyone to predict their exact movements. Soon enough, Zhang Lei ended up right beneath Song Ke and the others. The space-type awakener seemed to believe that this spot provided good cover for their line of sight. For a while, they refrained from further displacement. A perfect opportunity. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Song Ke and her group, who had been observing the battle from the shadows, now became the oriole. Should we try to seize it? Song Ke asked her companions for their opinions. Zhuang Qingyan gazed at the chaotic battle below, chuckling softly. Of course, why not? A-level task. After completing this, you'll be rich, won't you? Yeah, I wonder how much this A-level task is worth. All the awakeners present couldn't help but focus on the high 1,000-point score. Only Song Ke had her mind fixed on the Alliance coin reward. If she managed to seize it, would it be enough to pay back the debt she owed Xu Xing? Go, pay attention to the direction of 3 o'clock, Zhuang Qingyan pointed to a certain corner. That space-type awakener is hiding there. Okay, Song Ke nodded. Sister, you can do it. Xu Xing clenched his small fist to cheer her up. Xiao Xing, protect him well, Song Ke earnestly instructed. Xu Xing, oh, was there a possibility that the one who needed protection was actually me? After confirming the direction with a glance, Song Ke drew out her dual knives and leapt down from the 6th floor platform. Almost simultaneously, a nimble black shadow jumped down from the rooftop diagonally opposite. There was never just one Oriole lurking in the shadows. Chapter 34. Bloody Ferrara, 6. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master Concentric Circles. This sister is so fierce. Concentric circles. Song K jumped from the 6th floor platform, and almost at the same time, a black figure flew out from the opposite direction. Both of them met unexpectedly in midair and were momentarily stunned when they saw each other's faces. Soon, they realized each other's intentions. They were both here to snatch an A-level task. Song K executed a mid-air somersault and swung her long knife down towards her opponent's head. The fierce blade wind swirled aggressively, forcing the opponent to yield their position. Unexpectedly, this person was just as ruthless and intended to meet her head-on. Clang! Her spiritual weapon's blade struck the opponent's arm, colliding with something similar to steel armor. The shadow absorbed the blow, inwardly rotated their forearm, and used the momentum to continue forward, maintaining their speed and even overtaking Song K by a step. Song K wouldn't let them have their way. She immediately followed up with her short knife in her right hand, swiftly and viciously slashing upwards. Clang! The piercing sound of metal scraping against metal echoed once again as the opponent narrowly dodged by tilting their body to the side. Their movements momentarily slowed, allowing Song K to block their escape route. Being repeatedly stopped, the shadow seemed to grow irritated. They grabbed Song K's throat with their right hand and kicked her knee with their left leg, attempting to end her with a lethal blow. Song K raised both knives to defend herself and agilely dodged. However, her opponent was clearly skilled in close-quarters combat, with elusive and deadly strikes. They only attacked when they were certain to strike a lethal blow. In terms of combat skills alone, this was the most formidable opponent Song K had encountered so far. Unfortunately, they were still not a match for her. Song K lowered her waist, performed a 360-degree backward flip, and kicked the shadow in the chest, pushing them back. Taking advantage of the recoil, she grabbed the collar of the zombie Zhang Lei before the space manipulator could teleport again. Fighting was one thing, but she hadn't forgotten her true objective. Just then, a beautiful song inexplicably echoed in Song K's ears. Let me accompany you to sleep gently withdraw my hand Even more strangely, with each line of the song, her spirit grew more tired, and her desire to attack was gradually disarmed. So tired, she wanted to rest. Her eyelids grew heavier and her fingers loosened. In the midst of such an intense battle, she was almost falling asleep. Hot tears in my heart gather into a river Song K uncontrollably shed 2 clear tears. Quote exclamation mark. Quote. Why am I crying? The black shadow who had been grappling with Song K suddenly flashed, and a cold light flickered at their fingertips. They wielded a gleaming dagger with a green tint, aiming for her throat. Not good. This person was just as cunning as Yang Bo. The dagger was clearly poisoned. Song K raised her knife again to block, but her arm's movement was slightly slower. She felt sluggish all over and had a strong desire to lie down and take a nap. This inexplicable thought distracted her, and she was momentarily caught off guard as the black shadow severed a few strands of her hair. In just half a minute, they exchanged dozens of moves. Meanwhile, the Awakeners on the 4th floor platform finally realized that there were intruders causing trouble. Damn, there are thieves. They're so damn sneaky. They hid until now. Stop, don't fight each other, take them down first. Seeing the imminent threat of their victory being stolen, the group grew furious, launching a barrage of powerful attacks at them. The spatial manipulator hidden in the shadows made another move, causing Zhang Lei the zombie to teleport a few times like a bouncing ball, disappearing and reappearing in different spots. Song K and the Black Shadow were left isolated, instantly surrounded on all sides. Sister, Xu Xing clung to the railing, tiptoeing to peer down, his palms sweaty with nervousness. Across from them, deep within the empty corridor, a soft and coquettish voice suddenly sounded. Friends on the opposite side, how about considering cooperation? Zhuang Qingyun's wheelchair slid forward, exposing half of his handsome face to the bright overhead light. He chuckled, how do you propose we cooperate? Hee tilde, the female voice giggled sweetly, of course. If you all stop right now, I'll let you go. In the chaotic battle below, with Song Ke surrounded and experiencing the mental disturbance caused by the mysterious singing, their situation was far from favorable. Zhuang Qingyun lightly tapped his wheelchair's armrest, producing a rhythmic clatter that seemed to convey a certain special melody. He remained calm and didn't speak for quite some time, making the waiting individuals increasingly anxious. The woman couldn't help but urge, aren't you going to decide? Your companion doesn't look like she's doing well. Zhuang Qingyun raised an eyebrow casually and replied, is that so? Perhaps you should take another look. The eerie singing surrounded her from all directions, and its lingering notes, like hooks, penetrated Song Ke's ears relentlessly. Countless supernatural ability attacks came at her, and she found herself unable to move her feet, as if she were a helpless target. No, she couldn't continue like this. Song Ke closed her eyes, rapidly guiding her mental power through her body, and then she decisively blocked off her own sense of hearing, shutting out all external sounds. The world fell silent. She suddenly opened her eyes, her twin knives emitting a blue brilliance, and she released them forward. It was as if she were cutting through rows of harvested wheat stubble, ruthlessly severing the thorns that emerged from the ground. When those incredibly resilient thorns touched the azure blade wind, they instantly decayed and dissipated into fragments. At a distant staircase, Duan Muqi took a large step back in disbelief, covering his mouth as blood trickled from the corner. Aki, his teammates abandoned their opponents and rushed back, their faces filled with worry. How are you? Duan Muqi swallowed a mouthful of blood foam, his veins throbbing with pain, his spiritual energy running rampant, and his blood surging uncontrollably. He looked up in astonishment. What's that weapon she has in her hand? What in the world was that thing that could so effectively suppress his ability? The twin blades, after clearing the area, returned to Song Ke's hands. She clanged the hilts together, merging them into a jagged and elegant saw. With one hand, she raised the large blade and executed a mowing the grass technique, swinging it roundly. The black shadow was forced back step by step, unable to get close at all, and their previous slight advantage was completely gone. Instead, Song Ke pressed her advantage, and the broad attack range of the elegant saw was particularly effective. She swung the blade at her opponent's back, and with each strike, crack, the protective armor shattered, sending metal fragments scattering all over. How could an ordinary shield withstand the power of a blade that could pierce through anything? The power of metal manipulation was indeed this domineering. The situation downstairs suddenly reversed, and there was a subtle shift in the negotiations on the 6th floor. The soft female voice hadn't spoken for a while, and her shadow companion, now without the steel armor protection, probably couldn't withstand a single blow from Song Ke. Zhuang Qingyun casually leaned against his wheelchair. It seems like we need to reconsider the terms of our cooperation. The soft female voice, sounding somewhat resigned, asked, what do you want? Cooperation is based on mutual benefit. I just need to make sure that what we want doesn't conflict with each other, right? Zhuang Qingyun remained composed and deliberate in his speech, showing no signs of urgency. However, under Song Ke's relentless onslaught, the black shadow sustained more and more injuries, clearly unable to hold out much longer. The soft female voice eventually couldn't hold on any longer and played her trump card first. You can have the zombie. We just want the crystal. Zhuang Qingyun's eyes flickered, and he smiled faintly. Deal. In the silent world, Song Ke was completely focused on her opponent, and her attacks grew even more fierce. In the midst of the heated battle, she noticed a familiar ice shard in her field of vision. It circled around her twice before hovering in front of her. Song Ke instinctively looked up toward the platform where Zhuang Qingyan was. Perhaps knowing that she couldn't hear at the moment, Zhuang Qingyan made two hand gestures they had previously communicated, indicating prioritize capturing the target and withdraw quickly. Song Ke understood and ceased her attacks on the black shadow. Her gaze swept around and quickly located the position of the zombie Zhonglei. The black shadow also stopped moving, his ears twitching as if he had heard something. He turned the direction of his dagger and followed Song Ke as they charged toward the crowd. Bartle managed to capture the zombie Zhonglei amid the chaos. He was ecstatic, and his cold mechanical arm spiraled forward, puncturing Zhonglei's left side. Then, he stood there, one hand on his hip, and laughed heartily, ha ha ha, the A-level task is mine. The previously puppet-like Zhonglei, who had been moving around unnoticed by everyone, suddenly sprang into action. His expression twisted grotesquely as he raised his head, dark patterns on his neck bulged, and he let out a harsh roar. From the center of his pitch-black pupils, invisible ripples spread out in all directions. Within arm's reach, all awakeners who couldn't escape in time were turned into stone statues, frozen stiff in their tracks. This was Zhonglei's power, the stone gaze. Originally, it had the effect of immobilizing enemies who met his gaze briefly. However, after turning into a zombie, his power mutated into the even more terrifying petrification, with an expanded range of effect. Two awakeners who were entangled with each other were both hit. Their bodies turned as hard as stone, and one of them happened to be standing on the edge of the railing, losing his footing and tumbling down the spiral staircase. With a loud crash, he instantly shattered into pieces. Bartle maintained his posture with his mechanical arm extended, and half of his original eye nervously rolled around. It was too late. He was the closest person to Zhonglei and couldn't escape. Clang! The fearsome zombie swung a powerful slap, knocking Bartle's head off. Swish, swish, a nimble figure was swiftly approaching the scene, and the alert Zhonglei turned his neck nervously, his nerves twitching. Then, its entirely black pupils met Song Ke's round, unreactive eyes. The two stared at each other for a full 2 seconds, during which Song Ke remained completely unfazed. She calmly swung her long-handled machete, striking Zhonglei squarely in the face. His facial features were flattened, eye sockets caved in, and he was almost knocked out. Song Ke flicked the tip of her blade, hooking his collar, and then ran away. The shadowy figure followed closely behind her, and just as pursuers were closing in, he released something onto the ground, causing a roaring fire to erupt, blocking the pursuing superhumans. The two of them soared up and down, swiftly returning to the 6th floor, where they joined their waiting teammates and disappeared from view. As the petrification effect wore off, Elder Shang hastily ordered, "Where are they?" "Retrieve Zhonglei." A space distortion appeared behind him, gradually revealing a blurry awakener. In a hoarse voice, he said, "The target has disappeared. I can't detect them with my mental power." HMPH, Elder Shang snorted, "Then seal off all entrances. They can't escape." A lean awakener hurried over to report, "Elder Shang, Duan Muqi and the others have withdrawn." Withdrawn? At a time like this? Elder Shang was slightly puzzled. Duan Muqi had just been loudly declaring that he wouldn't give up on the A-level task, and now he had gone silent. Something was definitely not right. Elder Zhang's sharp eagle-like gaze showed his discernment. He toyed with his jade thumb ring, then gave a stern command. "You, go find out what happened." "Yes, Elder." As Elder Shang took a few steps forward, Bartle's head was rolling towards him, and he kicked it away with a snarl, "Useless." With Zhuang Qingyan as their living navigator, Song Ke and her companions swiftly navigated the complex maze of corridors. Sometimes, what appeared to be a dead-end wall would miraculously transform into a passageway under Zhuang Qingyan's guidance. The pursuers from behind couldn't keep up with them and quickly lost their way in the labyrinthine structure, disoriented and directionless. After shaking off the annoying pursuers, the group reached the 3rd floor and found a locked office. They forcefully entered the room, dumping the half-beaten zombie, Zhang Lei, onto the floor. Song Ke finally had the chance to take a closer look at the two individuals who had come with them. First was the shadowy figure she had been battling. He was a young man, perhaps even taller than Zhuang Qingyan, with dark skin, a robust physique, and dressed entirely in black combat gear. His eyes were wild and untamed, resembling a lone wolf. Noticing Song Ke's gaze, he responded with a cold, ruthless stare, and the greenish gleam on the blade in his hand flickered ominously. His ability likely had something to do with venom or assassination. The other person, the mastermind behind the interference with Song Ke's combat using her singing, revealed her true appearance. Surprisingly, she was a woman with a soft appearance, likely in her mid-20s. She had chestnut-colored voluminous wavy hair loosely tied into a ponytail, fair and smooth skin, and full, rosy lips. Even without makeup, her beauty was astonishing, and up close, she seemed to emit a radiant aura. Song Ke was taken aback by her extraordinary beauty and couldn't help but be mesmerized. With a slight smile, the beautiful woman gently parted her vermilion lips and smiled at Song Ke, saying, "Let's quickly divide the spoils." Song Ke was bewildered. Divide the spoils? Hey, we agreed that the zombie belongs to you, and the crystal belongs to us. Don't think about reneging on the deal, the beautiful woman reminded her. Hey, sister, Xu Xing leaned closer and whispered to her, openly informing Song Ke of the deal Zhuang Qingyan had made behind her back. He spilled all the details about Zhuang Qingyan's negotiation while watching him in the corner of the office. Zhuang Qingyan's expression didn't change, and he casually smiled when he noticed Song Ke's gaze, showing no signs of guilt about using her as bait for their deal. Song Ke didn't mind. After all, she had no idea what the crystal they were talking about was, and she trusted that someone like Zhuang Qingyan wouldn't let her down. In any case, it was done, so she had no objections. Song Ke turned her attention back to the two individuals in front of her. We won't renege on the deal. Then go ahead and deal with it, kill it. The beautiful woman nodded towards Zhang Lei on the floor. Upon hearing this, Xu Xing quickly hid behind Song Ke, clearly not eager to engage in such a dirty job. Zhuang Qingyan couldn't be counted on either. Although he didn't hesitate to kill Wu Yuru and Yang Bo earlier, he had no intention of getting involved this time. Song Ke seemed to be the only one left to handle the task. She gripped her cold, serrated saw, hesitated for a moment, and suddenly remembered something. We need to complete the mission. Almost forgetting, they hadn't completed the mission yet. How were they supposed to complete it? Did they have to bring the zombie Zhang Lei back to Ferrara, and submit it in front of everyone in the commission center? Just the thought of it was quite. The beautiful woman chuckled and pointed to her own terminal. It's not that complicated, you can complete it at the terminal. Song Ke looked down and realized that she was right. Special assignments could be submitted remotely, but the verification process seemed quite strict. It required recording a video and scanning the biological data of the target. She wasn't very proficient with the terminal, and in her haste, she ended up fumbling around and couldn't figure it out. Feeling increasingly flustered, she handed it over to Zhuang Qingyan to operate. Stop dawdling, the beautiful woman impatiently urged, pouting charmingly. Su Cha, the young man named Su Cha walked forward, raised his hand, and swiftly slashed Zhang Lei's neck. Zhang Lei didn't even make a sound. His head was severed. All right, hand in the task. Song Ke finally managed to understand the process and aimed the terminal at Zhang Lei. It automatically scanned the biological data, and after a few seconds of calculation by the artificial intelligence in the background, a prompt appeared on the screen. Confirmed, the target is deceased, mission accomplished. Before Song Ke could even see how much the mission was worth in alliance coins, the beautiful woman pressed, now, it belongs to us, right? She put down the terminal and nodded eagerly, saying, yes, yes. The beautiful woman crouched down, took Su Cha's dagger, and swiftly thrust it into Zhang Lei's head. With a quick motion, She pulled something out, a pure white crystal. She wiped the crystal clean with a tissue and held it in her hand. She was about to speak when suddenly, a mournful cry echoed from the corner of the office. No, no, Lizzie woo woo woo. A woman wearing municipal hall uniform with disheveled hair rushed out. Her two colleagues couldn't hold her back and were dragged out from behind the filing cabinet. Their faces were pallid, and they seemed mentally drained, having been trapped here for several days. The woman stumbled and knelt on the ground, cradling Zhang Lei's broken head. She cried out in agony, "Why did you kill him? Why did you do it? He was a good person, such a good person. He worked so hard and never took a day off. He was saving up just to marry me. We were supposed to get married next month. Why did this happen?" Ahui, one of her colleagues tried to pull her away, but she forcefully shrugged him off. In the depths of her sorrow, Ahui continued to mutter, "Finally, Lizzie became an awakener after all the hard work. We thought things would get better, but you killed him. You killed him." Both Lin Xiao and Zhang Lei worked at the municipal hall. Before Luliport fell into the zombie apocalypse, they had been working tirelessly in the office, unable to leave when the chaos began. When they finally realized the situation, the first floor had already been overrun by zombies. With no other choice, they hid inside the filing cabinets in the office and waited for rescue. They endured this for a whole week without any sign of help. Eventually, their water and supplies ran out. Zhang Lei, the only awakener among them and Lin Xiao's fiancé, made the courageous decision to go out and divert the zombies' attention, hoping to secure a path for the others. On October 1st, he left the office with two male colleagues and never returned. Lin Xiao remained curled up inside the filing cabinet, praying fervently to the heavens, hoping that her fiancé would return soon. However, as time passed, her consciousness began to blur, and she could no longer hold on. Just moments ago, Lin Xiao had heard voices from outside the room. She thought her fiancé had returned, so she summoned the last of her strength and peeked through the door's crack, only to witness a woman thrusting a knife into Zhang Lei's head. Lin Xiao was overwhelmed by despair. "You have to pay for this. You have to pay for Lizzie." She seemed to descend into madness, stood up with difficulty, and stumbled toward the beautiful woman's face. Unfortunately, she couldn't reach her and was forcefully kicked away by the silent Sucha, crashing heavily to the ground. "What are you doing?" Two male colleagues rushed over, filled with grief, anger, and despair. They helped Lin Xiao to her feet, glaring at Sucha and the woman. Sucha's kick had been gentle, but Lin Xiao was already at her limit. She couldn't stand anymore, and her emotions had completely unraveled. Tears streamed down her face as she hurled the most vicious curses at the woman who had killed Zhang Lei. The beautiful woman listened to her curses without any change in expression. Suddenly, she exploded, "Open your eyes and see clearly. He was already a zombie. I'm not a saint. What's wrong with killing a zombie? Even if it wasn't me, there were at least 30 other people downstairs waiting to kill it. Sooner or later, it was going to die. You don't need to stand on your moral high ground to condemn me. Since you let him out of this room, he was destined to die." Lin Xiao was drenched in a shower of verbal absay, and she stared blankly at Zhang Lei, whose face was twisted in a grotesque manner. His inky black pupils were nothing like a human's. "No, it's not true. I don't believe it. Lizzie." Lin Xiao held Zhang Lei's hand, crying inconsolably. Was it true? Lin Xiao asked herself. Was it because they had unanimously agreed to send Zhang Lei, the only awakener, out when they needed someone to divert the zombies? Even she, his fiancée, didn't oppose it. Hadn't they indirectly caused Zhang Lei's death? The beautiful woman sighed. "I'm not the one who makes the rules. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame this absurd world." Song Ke, who had been watching quietly, was impressed by the woman's logical and cutting insults. She stared at her in awe. The beautiful woman suddenly turned her head and glared at Song Ke. "What are you looking at? Did I say something wrong? Wow, this sister is so fierce. Chapter 35. Bloody Ferrara, 7. Doomsday Spiritual Artifact Master Concentric Circles. You've corrupted Shaoxing concentric circles. Song Ke was scolded. What are you looking at? Did I say something wrong? The beautiful sister not only scolded her but also demanded an answer to her question. Song Ke nodded at first but quickly realized her mistake and shook her head vigorously under the other's angry gaze. Seeing her bewildered expression, the beautiful sister snorted coldly and turned her gaze away without causing further trouble. For a while, no one spoke in the room. The atmosphere gradually fell silent, with occasional sobs from Lin Xiao and feeble attempts at comforting from her colleagues. Blocked at the exit, Chap observed as he leaned against the window, speaking with an unusual pronunciation, enunciating words strangely, and pausing as if not very familiar with the common language of the Alliance. "Can we break through?" asked the beautiful sister. "We can, but it will expose us," Chap replied. The beautiful sister frowned. In the chaos earlier, they had acted quickly and retreated even faster. The Awakeners on the other side couldn't determine their identities without direct contact. But now, it was clear that the other side was on guard. Trying to force their way out aggressively might not be a good idea. She didn't want to expose their identities here and needed to think of another plan. Song Ke pushed Zhuang Qingyan to the other side of the room, keeping a distance from the two groups of people. "You noticed someone here a long time ago?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," Zhuang Qingyan didn't deny it. Lin Xiao and the others were ordinary people with no awakened abilities. It was normal for Song Ke's attention to be focused on Zhang Lei at the time. But since the office door was locked from the inside, he figured that there must be someone in the room. After hearing his explanation, Song Ke responded belatedly, not paying too much attention. She held the cold and heavy jagged blade in her hand, considering whether to find a place to hide it. "Song Ke," Zhuang Qingyan called her name softly. "Yeah?" Song Ke raised her gaze, and she had just found a good place to put the blade down. Thinking that Zhuang Qingyan wanted to have a quiet conversation, she bent over and placed the saw on the floor against the wall. Her uneven black short hair brushed over his shoulder, causing a slight tingling sensation. Zhuang Qingyan moved his fingertip but didn't avoid it. "That person has the rainforest mark on him." Zhuang Qingyan was referring to a young man named Chap. The rainforest, the E-170 district, was the Alliance's most mysterious ecological area. Due to its humid and hot climate, as well as its rich and diverse species, the rainforest was considered the best breeding ground for special operations personnel such as mercenaries and assassins. It was said that the methods of training combat machines in the rainforest were brutal, harsh, and even sadistic. Many standards far exceeded the limits the human body could endure. Those who could survive and carve a bloody path out of such grueling training not only possessed exceptional individual combat abilities but had also become accustomed to dancing with death. Their empathy was almost non-existent, and their mental fortitude was far from ordinary. The rainforest mark mentioned by Zhuang Qingyan was located on Chap's nape, where there was a black serpent-like tattoo. Recalling the details of her encounter with Chap, Song Ke slowly spoke. His combat skills were very strong, but he didn't possess any awakened abilities. "You're right," Zhuang Qingyan agreed. Chap's awakened ability should be related to poison, possibly at B level or higher. Awakened abilities at B level or higher, weren't they as formidable as individuals like An Qiwen and Wu Juman from the Azure Phoenix Army? Such people could be a real headache if they turned into enemies. "And there's another one." Song Ke informed Zhuang Qingyan of the recent interference by the beautiful sister's singing, which had left her feeling exhausted. Zhuang Qingyan pondered for a moment. It's either sound wave control or some kind of auditory awakened ability related to mysticism. Based on the current information, we can't make an accurate assessment. This person only imposed side effects on you. If her singing has an effect on her companions as well, this person will be a real problem. A powerful support who could debuff enemies and buff allies simultaneously, Imagine a battle that was evenly matched at first, but as you fought, you grew weaker while your opponent became stronger. Anyone with even a slightly fragile will would easily have their fighting spirit crushed. The beautiful sister's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. No wonder they dared to take on missions and act as the hidden Oriole among so many awakeners. However, when it came to Su Cha and his companion, there was still one thing they hadn't figured out. Song Ke locked eyes with Zhuang Qingyan and asked another pressing question: what are crystals? Zhuang Qingyan lowered his voice. Do you remember when I explained the cause of the apocalypse to you? I do. Excessive solar radiation enters the human body, causing disruptions in the magnetic field and genetic mutations. Ordinary people would turn into zombies. However, if an overwhelming amount of external energy is absorbed at once and cannot be digested by the human body, it will crystallize. Song Ke fell silent for a few seconds, then reached into a hidden pouch in her backpack and pulled out several crystals. This was something she had dug out from Song En and other senior brothers' heads, and the one inside Zhang Lei's body should be the same thing. Zhuang Qingyan picked up the nearly transparent crystal and examined it closely. Crystals are not commonly found in ordinary zombie bodies because they are subjected to overwhelming radiation. However, in the bodies of awakeners, due to previous gene fusion, there is a certain degree of resistance, and the probability of crystallization is basically above 95%. It can be said that whenever an awakened zombie is encountered, there will be crystals. Song Ke lowered her gaze, clenched her fist silently, and felt extremely downcast. So Song En had already awakened his abilities back then? She had encountered awakened zombies so early. While the two were talking, Xu Xing remained quiet in the middle, his eyes moving. Although he had awakened early, his theoretical knowledge was not much different from Song Ke's. Hearing Zhuang Qingyan's explanation in a gentle tone, he didn't feel like arguing for the first time. He hadn't expected this person, who usually pretended to know so much. HMPH. What are cries, crystals used for? Song Ke calmed her emotions and asked. Just thinking about where these things came from, dug out from zombie heads, sent shivers down her spine. What could they be used for that would make those two prefer them over an A-level task, no matter the cost? The official explanation is that crystals have a chance to trigger the awakening of abilities in ordinary people, and even allow awakeners to undergo a second evolution. Xu Xing's eyes widened suddenly. Song Ke was also surprised. Awakening and evolution? How did this thing cause evolution? Did they have to eat it? Wait a minute. Song Ke suddenly realized a blind spot in Zhuang Qingyan's words. What do you mean by official explanation? Did that imply the existence of unofficial and secretive methods? This was becoming more and more mysterious. Also, since awakening and evolution were both described as having a chance, did that mean there was a possibility of failure? Song Ke grew more perplexed as she asked, do crystals really work? A subtle smile appeared on Zhuang Qingyan's face. No, this is a meticulously planned deception by the Alliance. What? Xu Xing couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, immediately attracting the attention of Su Cha and the beautiful woman. Zhuang Qingyan knocked on his head, warning in a cold tone, shut your mouth. Xu Xing realized he had overreacted and covered his mouth with a small, pitiful hand. Zhuang Qingyan placed the crystal that belonged to Song En back into Song Ke's hand. While there is still some residual energy within the crystal that can be activated through technological means, its structural form has solidified, and it won't undergo a third mutation. You can think of it as a power bank that can only be charged once. A power bank, what a strange analogy. Song Ke stared at his smiling face, feeling extremely speechless. It turned out that the crystals were completely useless. She had said so. How could Zhuang Qingyan possibly suffer a loss? This was like using a knowledge gap to one's advantage. How cunning. However, she still had some uncertainty. How do you know it's useless? Because this was originally Qingyan Institute's research achievement. Oh, it's the one that Wu Yuru and Yang Bo wanted to steal. This achievement had, accidentally, leaked before, but unfortunately, it was the incorrect part. If it was incorrect, why did it circulate? Because some people don't care about right or wrong. They only pursue their interests. Most people nowadays have no idea about the true purpose of the crystals. The Alliance only needs to release a bit of information suggesting that they have materials that can promote awakening and evolution, and they can firmly control the awakeners. After all, this is a valuable strategic resource. Oh, Song K replied quietly for a couple of seconds but quickly asked again, how do you know it's incorrect? Why do you have so many questions? Zhuang Qingyan chuckled, I'm out of explanations for today. He was about to tap Song K's head as he did earlier, but as his arm reached halfway, he suddenly met her expressionless face. Awkwardly, he withdrew his arm, swerved, and tapped Xu Xing's head once again. Xu Xing exclaimed, hey! Song K sat on the ground and took a break, suddenly remembering that she hadn't checked the rewards for the A-level mission. Let's check together, she called out to Zhuang Qingyan and Xu Xing with a sense of ceremony. This was their team's first completed mission. Two shiny heads crowded together, along with Zhuang Qingyan lazily leaning on his wheelchair, not wanting to move. All 6 eyes focused on the projection screen in front of Song K. On V587's mission list, there lay a shining red commission, A-level mission, code Virginia, 00001, status, completed, eliminate the awakened zombie Zhang Lei. Biological ID, LYG 1301756 points earned, 1000 Alliance credits earned, 0 friendly reminder, your team has entered the total ranking list for C72 district points. Would you like to make it public? Yes, no. Ignoring the other irrelevant information, Song K stared at the middle line, finding it hard to believe as she confirmed it once again. Alliance credits earned. 0 inches Song K. Could someone please tell her why even B-level missions had 2000 Alliance currency, and yet a proper A-level mission had a reward of 0? She had fought so hard to reclaim the awakened zombie, and the result was 0. Who could endure this? Song K's eyes went dull, appearing deeply affected, and the other two couldn't bear to watch. Sister, Xu Xing was still trying to figure out how to console her. It's okay, you don't have to pay me back. Zhuang Qingyan interrupted him, it's not that bad. Didn't you accept a B-level mission as well? Song K's eyes regained a glimmer of hope. Oh, right, at least there were still 2000 Alliance credits. When clearing the zombies on the first floor of the city hall, did you notice that these people resemble the publishers? Zhuang Qingyan pointed at Liu Xiao and the others in the center of the room. I'll go ask. Song K stood up. Wait, Zhuang Qingyan tugged at her hood. It's not appropriate for you to go. They are very hostile towards us right now. Although Song K didn't personally kill Zhang Lei, they all entered the room together. Not to mention that she had casually tossed Zhang Lei's body with a knife earlier. The way these people looked at them was filled with hatred. What should we do then? Song K looked troubled. There's someone best suited for this task, Zhuang Qingyan replied cryptically. Who is it? Song K asked. Who? Xu Xing also inquired. Then, he found that the two of them looked at him at the same time. Xu Xing, QAQ. Liu Xiao had finally managed to regain some composure but sat in place in a dazed and absent-minded state, unable to snap out of it. The two remaining male colleagues, physically and mentally exhausted, finally succumbed to fatigue, clutching their heads and slumping to the ground. Just then, a boy with curly hair and big blinking eyes approached slowly. The boy glanced at the lifeless Liu Xiao for a moment, then shifted his gaze to the two tired men and softly asked, Big brothers, can I ask you a question? Their willingness to communicate was not strong, but considering that the person asking was an adorable child, one of the slightly plump men nodded in a somewhat more friendly manner. Go ahead, thank you, big brother. Xu Xing blinked his innocent large eyes, looking grateful. He lowered his head and fiddled with his terminal, displaying his task interface. My sister and I came to Luliport because we received this task, clear the first floor zombies at the city hall. Big brother, was this task issued by you? Have you been trapped here for a long time? Xu Xing's words were quite skillful. Firstly, he explained their reason for coming, emphasizing that they were here for a rescue mission. Unlike the beautiful woman who often resorted to violence, they were definitely not associated with her. Secondly, after inquiring if the man was the task issuer, he added a caring message, gradually breaking down the man's psychological defenses. Sure enough, the man's attitude softened a bit when he heard Xu Xing's words. Yes, I posted it on the survival platform. He took out his phone. Like Hua City, D99 district, the Star Network in Luli Port, D50 district, was also paralyzed, but there was an app called Doomsday Self-Help Platform on his phone. It didn't require an internet connection, was universally used throughout the Alliance, updated in real time, and allowed users to exchange information and post-rescue missions. Xu Xing compared it with his terminal and confirmed that this man was the issuer of the B-level task. However, the man's interface was noticeably different from his. It didn't display any ABCDE levels or any information about Awakener teams. It was likely that the Alliance's central hub or artificial intelligence collected help requests from various regions, evaluated them, and then forwarded them to the corresponding local Awakeners. The man gazed at Xu Xing's brightly shining cartoon terminal, his eyes devoid of envy but filled with numbness. Citizens in different regions had different statuses, rights, and access to information. People in District D would never use a terminal that surpassed the local technological level unless they became Awakeners. Xu Xing turned off the projection and innocently tilted his head. Big brother, the zombies outside have been cleared. You're safe now, and you can leave through the main entrance. Indeed, all the zombies in the city hall had been thoroughly cleared. They could leave without much danger. As for the Awakeners, as Zhuang Qingyan put it, they didn't have the time to bother with these small fries. Good, thank you, the man said, his spirits somewhat lifted upon hearing this news. Then, big brother, could you please help us confirm the completion of the mission? Xu Xing folded his hands together, his eyes moist, wearing a pitiful expression that seemed to say, please. All right, not far away. Song Ke was momentarily speechless. She turned her head and looked at Zhuang Qingyan with an expressionless face. Why did you teach him all this? You've corrupted Xiaoxing. Me? Corrupted him? Zhuang Qingyan looked puzzled. Ahui, let's go, the man said, taking heavy steps towards his companions. No, we should take Lizzie with us. Lu Shaolwei clutched Zhang Lei's head tightly, unwilling to let go. Didn't you just hear? There are many people downstairs looking for Lizzie. If we bring him along, we won't be able to escape, the man explained in a pained tone. Lu Shaolwei shook her head in anguish. Another man shouted with deep sorrow, Ahui, you need to snap out of it. The people who died can't come back. Don't let Lizzie sacrifice for us in vain. We need to survive. In the end, Lu Shaolwei was led away by the two men. They were employees here and were familiar with the labyrinthine corridors of City Hall. Soon, they disappeared into the depths of the corridor. After these people left, 2 minutes later, Su Cha, who had been leaning against the wall, suddenly whispered, pursuers are coming. Song Ke released a trace of her mental power and indeed sensed numerous scattered and diverse energy signatures nearby. These Awakeners were systematically searching each room, and the sounds of their approach were faintly audible from the office. In a little while, they would be close to this room. Beautiful Sister's expression first tightened, but then she seemed to think of something and raised her gaze towards Song Ke's group. Hey, you guys across the hall, aren't you going to come up with a plan? How are we going to get out of here? The 3 members of V587 displayed an unexpected level of telepathy at this moment. One looked up at the sky, another looked down at the ground, and the third smiled and stared at the others, but none of them spoke. Beautiful Sister exclaimed, what's going on? You had all sorts of tactics when dealing with us earlier, and now you're just giving up? You, she pointed her brightly painted finger at Song Ke and then turned to Zhuang Qingyan. And you, weren't you pretty capable just now? Don't tell me that's all you've got? Sorry, provocation doesn't work on me, Zhuang Qingyan replied calmly. Beautiful sister, okay, you guys aren't in a hurry. It's just us who are in a hurry, right? Feeling a bit embarrassed by her words, Song Ke took 2 steps forward, approached the window, and peered down. The office was about 3 stories high above the ground, taller than a typical building. She could manage a jump, but it was clear that Zhuang Qingyan and Xu Xing wouldn't be able to. Song Ke picked up the cold jagged blade in the corner and used her eyes to ask Zhuang Qingyan if they should break the window to escape. After pondering for a moment, Zhuang Qingyan extended his hand to her. Give me your terminal. Song Ke removed her needle-shaped terminal and handed it to him. After a few moments of manipulation, they waited for 2 or 3 minutes until they suddenly heard a knocking sound from outside the window. The group immediately turned their attention toward the noise and were surprised to discover a mechanical arm. As the electronic eye hanging from the tip of the arm noticed Song Ke's group looking at it, it excitedly shook and gestured with its metallic joints, making a beckoning motion. It was the 2 transport carriages left at the entrance. The carriages were parked right under the window in the shadow of the building, an extremely concealed location, far from all exits and unlikely to be discovered easily. A long mechanical arm extended all the way up to the 3rd floor, gripping the window sill, then flattening out and unfolding, forming an escape slide. Song Ke, can this even work? Others looked at Zhuang Qingyan in shock. I tried sending the coordinates to it, and it calculated and built the nearest escape route automatically, Zhuang Qingyan explained calmly, without taking undue credit. A simple artificial intelligence possessed this level of intelligence. How terrifying must Ilya, the lord of Ferrara City, be? For the first time, Song Ke started to wonder about the extent of artificial intelligence development in Ferrara. With the slide in place, the group of awakeners slid down smoothly, escaping from under the noses of the heavily guarded pursuers. After leaving City Hall, they ran several kilometers before slowing down, making sure no one was pursuing them. Zhuang Qingyan looked at the other 2. Let's part ways here, it's better for both of our sides. Beautiful sister raised her chin. Of course, I have no objections. Their temporary cooperation was fragile, even more fragile than paper, easily broken with just a bit of moisture. Moreover, both sides were still wary of each other. Song Ke pulled the 2 carriages and took a step in the direction where the transport vehicle was parked. Coincidentally, beautiful sister and Su Cha also took a step in that direction. Song Ke hesitated for a moment, then lifted her foot and took another step. Oh, they bumped into each other again. She immediately stared cautiously at the people in front of her. What were they up to? Why were they following her? Oh, are you also returning to Ferrara? Beautiful sister teased. She noticed Song Ke's expression and raised an eyebrow. Why are you looking at me like that? You don't know me? She seemed somewhat surprised, her gaze shifting between Song Ke, Xu Xing, and Zhuang Qingyan. You really don't know me? Are you visitors? Who are you? Must we know you? Xu Xing couldn't help muttering. The beautiful sister burst out laughing, her face absolutely radiant. No need, it's even better if you don't know me. I'm Lin Xiao. Maybe we'll meet again someday. Farewell.